Hi everybody, Karen Fabian here, founder of Bare Bones Yoga, and thanks for taking a moment to watch this video. So I wanted to talk a little bit about shoulder anatomy, and I was inspired to do this because I've been doing a bunch of exercise videos while exercising home during this pandemic due to COVID-19, and I've been really aware of how many things I'm doing where I'm at risk of letting my shoulder kind of push forward, the head of the humerus push forward into the tissue of the muscles that support the shoulder joint. And this is something that can be really potentially injurious if you're not aware of what's going on and how to combat it. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit today. Now, even though I'm noticing it in the context of doing workout videos, it's definitely something you're going to see in your yoga classes as people move from high to low push-up. So let's talk a little bit about shoulder anatomy so we're all kind of starting on the same page. So when we look at the shoulder joint, you've got the humerus and the head of the humerus that fits into the cup of the scapula. That part of the scapula itself is called the glenoid fossa. Now, the connection between those two bones is good. However, it really depends on all of the supporting structures around the joint to keep it healthy, to keep it moving in a way where it has good range of motion, and it's also protected from having this bone pull away from this bone. And that's a general rule of thumb. Joints are connections between bones. The articulation is the connection, and you don't want that articulation to be compromised. Now, the muscles that are around the joint are the rotator cuff, and the rotator cuff is a group of 4 muscles. You've got the infraspinatus, which is on this anterior portion, and it is an abductor of the shoulder. You have the teres minor and the infraspinatus on the back of the body that connects the scapula to the humerus, and they're both external rotators. And then you've got the subscapularis, which sits on the inside of the scapula itself, and that's an internal rotator. So you've got those 4 movements that are occurring from the rotator cuff. You've also got the deltoid, and that's divided into an anterior, a middle, and a posterior, resulting in internal rotation, flexion, abduction, and extension. And then you also have, well, that's in terms of supporting the shoulder joint. Let's kind of start there. So what tends to happen in any of these movements, and I'm talking about it in the context of exercise videos and exercising fitness kind of workouts, let's focus on it from the perspective of you as a yogic teacher and where you're going to see this forward movement of the head of the humerus. You're going to see it potentially in high to low push-up, and it's now that we understand the muscles that are there, those are the muscles that are potentially at risk, along with all the other joint structures, so tendons, ligaments, and nerves. And so what we want to do to prevent that is not only, as a teacher, be looking for it and cue people out of it, we also want to give them opportunities to strengthen the muscles back here. If they can strengthen the muscles back here a bit, they can draw the head of the humerus back somewhat, even as their palms are down and they're facing the floor, as they would be when they're moving from plank to low plank. So the muscles in the back here that we're talking about are muscles like, and I'll turn the skeleton around so you can see, muscles like the middle trapezius and the rhomboids. Those are both adductors of the scapula. To a certain extent, maybe a little bit of the posterior deltoid, but we're really talking about muscles here that are strengthening the ability of the person to draw the head of the humerus back and the scapula a little closer together. Now, when we move from high to low push-up, we don't really want to completely adduct the scapula, but we do want a little bit of drawing the head of the humerus back to prevent that dumping forward. Another muscle I'll just mention, we'll just give it kind of a notable mention here, is the serratus anterior. The serratus anterior is a shoulder stabilizer, so it acts in that movement to keep the shoulder steady. So this is a really critical muscle to preventing that forward dumping. So it runs from ribs 2 through 8 to the medial border of the scapula. So it's going to keep the scapula a little steadier on the back. So the serratus anterior, to a certain extent, would combat the actions of the rhomboids and the middle traps to adduct the scapula. However, there will be some of that involved in keeping the head of the humerus somewhat sitting a little bit more congruently in the cup of the scapula. I think in closing, what you can see is, number one, there's a lot of muscles involved. And number two, it's really hard in a dynamic movement to say what the isolated movement is. It's a coordinated effect to, in this case, prevent that forward dumping of the head of the humerus of a lot of muscles. And this is why, as yoga teachers, when someone comes up to us and they say, I have a pain here, or when I move from high to low push-up, what muscles should I be using? The answer to that is a whole bunch. You're using them in different ways. One thing I can say you don't want to use in that movement is you don't want to use these muscles in the front of the body, because you want to try to stay out of that internal rotation. So pectoralis minor and major, subscapularis, you don't want to be using those, anterior deltoid. You want to be using more of middle and posterior to kind of create that lengthening in the front body musculature and strengthening in the back body musculature and stabilizing from the serratus anterior. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I want to just wrap this up by letting you know, in December I'm going to be opening enrollment for my signature program on anatomy. It's called the Blueprint Learning Program, and it's really unique in that it breaks down the subject of anatomy into understandable parts, and every part is a module you'll complete. And this time, for the first time ever, I'm doing a pilot launch for only 5 teachers, and the pilot aspect of the program is it's going to be rewards based. So you're going to earn a reward every time you finish a module, and it's basically going to give you an opportunity to earn back some of what you invested in the program, so money, as a way to reward you as you're going through the program. I don't really think anybody's ever done this before, and it's really grounded in neuroscience. I want to give teachers an opportunity to get a reward for completing each module so that they will stick with it. One of the biggest challenges when you buy an online course is to stick with it. You may be really excited when you first buy it, and then your life may get busy, you may fall off track, or you may start to bump up against some topics and you may be struggling to try to understand them, and that may be a reason you drop off. So not only will I build in a rewards program, but I will also build in some bonus coaching calls, and those coaching calls will also be ways for you to earn back some of your investment, and will be opportunities for us to have a conversation so I can be sure and you can be sure that you are indeed learning. So if you are interested in being part of this pilot program, this launch of my signature program, just go to my website, barebonesyoga.com, and right on the homepage, you're going to see the link for the waitlist for the Blueprint Learning Program. Click that, you'll be on the waitlist, and I'll let you know when I open enrollment. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.